Hello my darlings and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to talk about revision, and this was my most watched video so far, and I'm going to follow up on that and answer some of your questions. Revision means altering the past, and that might sound a little far-fetched if you're new to this, so I recommend that you watch my video right here if you haven't seen it yet to answer some of your preliminary questions. Let's go over some basics. There is only the present moment. The past and future don't exist beyond concepts in your mind. The past exists as a story in your mind that you've been telling yourself. The story that you accept is important as it informs your identity. Who you're identifying as determines your state of being, your self-concept, your perception of the world, and thus the reality in which you live in. Now, I think someone asked why they should revise and said something like they liked their past because it made them who they are. This is great. You do not have to revise. If a negative circumstance in your past helped you grow, and thereby you are able to see it and narrate it that way, you give it the meaning of being a stepping stone in the evolution of your soul and your consciousness. So if you had a really rough childhood, or if you went through a lot of pain, but you used that pain to open your heart more, to really take in the universal lessons that were being offered to you, to grow stronger and wiser, and you're able to see your past preciously, you're able to feel grateful for making you who you are, then absolutely hold on to your past and you don't have to revise it. However, if you are not yet at the ability of seeing that everything that happens is happening for you, nothing ever happens against you, everything is happening as a prompt to elevate your state of consciousness and to spur your soul growth, then perhaps you are viewing your past from the lens of the victim. If you have resentment, if you are unable to forgive, if you feel victimized by your past, what is that making you in the present moment? Which identity is that creating? It is creating that of a victim. You are not a victim. It is creating a relatively weaker identity, which is not going to be helpful for you in achieving what you want to achieve and becoming that stronger version of yourself. This is where we can use revision to either reframe how we see the past, or if you have a burning desire to literally change something that occurred in the past, to bring a new future event or a new present event, then you are absolutely entitled to do so. Yes, you can literally change things. A lot of people ask, like, can I change my age? Can I change the divorce papers? Can I change something on a document? And the answer is a resounding yes. We live in a multiverse of infinite possibilities where everything exists, where God is reflecting itself through smaller vehicles of perception, where God consciousness is looking in on itself from every possible angle from the field of infinity. Many words to say infinite realities exist. There exist timelines with a certain past that you would prefer, and you can jump to them, you can shift to them. This is not something that I personally research or practice too much. There are other people or sources on the internet that will teach you more about reality shifting. I know there's the subreddit called r-shifting. I'm sure there's plenty of YouTubers who talk about quantum jumping and timeline shifting. Essentially, this is what we are doing all day, every day, with any decision we are making, with any manifestation that we are attempting to achieve. But doing very radical ones, for example, changing your year of birth, I don't personally have experience with, but I know it's very possible. I've seen stories all over the internet where people decide they want to be a different age, and suddenly their real birth certificate gets lost, and later a new one is found with a new date, or same thing with their ID card, or their parents. Once they have successfully shifted realities, their parents have a completely new memory of when they were born. When I say you are not a victim, this might trigger some people, but it's true. Even the hardest of circumstances are presenting opportunities to grow and level up in consciousness. We are all the same one consciousness, but having different experiences at different places along many different scales. Most life lessons can be boiled down to two things. One, acceptance, surrender, letting go, allowance, and two, unconditional love. Of course, there are so many more principles and values that we are encouraged to learn by life through trials and tribulations, such as bravery, loyalty, fearlessness, endurance, patience. But most of your challenges have an inherent lesson presented to you, offered to you, which is understanding, forgiving, accepting, allowing, and loving throughout it all. I want to read to you a quote by a man named Viktor Frankl, who was a man who survived horrible circumstances in the Holocaust and wrote a book about his search for meaning and how he was able to recontextualize suffering. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of human freedoms: to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Most of your questions revolved around how to revise. I mentioned a few methods in the previous video that you can go check out again, and any new methods that I mention will really just be extrapolations of those. But I want to mention a very important thing. Revision is not a straightforward formula that you can follow. It's not like, do this, do that, and then the past will change in a predictable way. Because you are the creator of your reality. You are responsible for your consciousness. Therefore, the extent and success of your revision will depend upon your beliefs. This is why some people do reality shifting and can easily go to bed and wake up living in Italy the next day because they've shifted realities. I don't disbelieve in those experiences. I'm somewhere more in the middle. And for other people, it can be even more subtle. Ultimately, what you're after is a change in the future, or what will be the present for you when the future arrives. You are wishing to identify with a new version of yourself. So if you revise the past, usually what will happen is that it will be reflected in the future to varying degrees of your belief. A cute example here is that of my best friend. She did not have the best childhood. It was quite painful and challenging. There was a lot of trauma there, especially surrounding her family. And throughout the years of knowing her, her relationship with her family was still very tumultuous. I told her about this about a year and a half ago, and she immediately accepted the homework and spent the afternoon scripting about her childhood as she wishes it would have been, and also covering certain core memories that were painful and revising them and how they would have gone. A few days after that, her mom came across some boxes where she found her old writing and her old diaries when she was a child. And they were filled with things like, I love my mom because of this reason, she does this for me, I love my dad. So immediately, reality echoed to confirm this new story, this new identity that she was taking in. They've been able to work through a lot of their issues. Various things came up that encouraged healing and forgiveness and repairing the past and letting go, from her coming across new healing modalities to really get in touch with her inner child and heal those things, but as well with her parents. And fast forward now, a year and a half later, she is best friends with everyone in her family. Like, she FaceTimes every member once a day. Really, really close with them. There's another very important thing I want to mention, which is resistance. If you are revising from a place of resisting the past, as in you really dislike it, you hate it, you are rejecting it, you don't want to accept it, this becomes more like ignoring your issues and suppressing. For example, if you get a speeding ticket and this is like deeply upsetting to you and you start overthinking what this implies for you, what the consequences are going to be, you're very emotionally attached to this speeding ticket and you try to revise it, you might have some more difficulties. If you're able to understand that that speeding ticket is just as real and unreal as anything else that could have happened, and accept it in the 3D, knowing that your imagination, your connection to source consciousness, to this infinite field of possibilities, is the more superior reality, you stop resisting it. If you're able to truly be okay with it being your current 3D reflection, your current reflection in the mirror, go within and then change yourself to becoming the person who did not get the speeding ticket, that is when revision goes a lot faster. This is why for me, I'm able to revise on the spot with a lot of things. The most common way that I revise is when I do something embarrassing or something that I'm not really happy that I did, that doesn't really align with the highest version of myself that I can perceive. I simply drop it and deny it. And I'm able to do that from a point of non-resistance because I genuinely accept all of me. I accept all of my flaws, all of my potential mishaps, anything ugly or bad that I might do or have done. I accept it and I love it just as much as all the good things. So I'm not doing it from a place of condemning or rejecting a part of myself. I'm just doing it from a place of, nah, I don't like that outfit, I prefer that one. And so yeah, if I do something that I kind of wish I hadn't, I just drop it. And I stop feeding it with my attention. It no longer exists in my reality. I deny it to myself. Someone asked, is this gaslighting? Yeah, absolutely. It is gaslighting yourself, but don't gaslight anyone else. If you are trying to gaslight other people with your new story of the past, you're completely missing the point, and you should not be manipulating or forcing anyone in the 3D because they don't matter. They are the messengers of who you're being. What matters is adjusting yourself and becoming the version of yourself that you would most like to see. If you hate yourself for something that you've done, or even anyone else for something that they've done to you, that hatred is keeping that thing alive. You are giving it life. You are acknowledging it and approving that it's real by hating it. By getting into a state of non-resistance, of allowing it to be whatever it may be, because you know that it doesn't have any bearing or ability to change your core self, your true identity as a beautiful component of God, as unconditional love, then you are able to actually let it fade away. What does it mean that the future will align with this new path that you've selected? Well, I'll answer that through some of the questions you guys asked me. A few of you asked about divorce. If you can revise divorce. Yes, you can, but the effects of your revision will depend upon what you believe to be possible, what your mind can create essentially, what your mind can perceive. If you have a very low level of belief in this holographic universe and the quantum nature of reality and your ability to revise, then perhaps your revision will look like your spouse comes back and you guys get married again. But the divorce still very much happened, everyone remembers it, but you know, your ultimate goal was to still be with that person, right? So then you end up with that person. However, for someone who has a lot more belief in the peculiar way how anything can happen, perhaps their revision of their divorce will look like the town hall magically completely loses the records of your divorce. Maybe there was a fire and they went up in flames, or maybe just their system malfunctioned and now it's gone. And suddenly you can't find your divorce papers anywhere, and suddenly you guys are still married. The divorce wasn't registered anywhere, there was a glitch in the system, the papers are gone, maybe your house was broken into, maybe you just, the paper slipped out of your hands. So you look at your ex-spouse and you're like, bro, we're still married. Anything can really happen. I've read many stories of people revising divorce, so look for these on the internet and you will see varying results. And that will really help you understand that there are so many ways that this can happen, and when you let go of the need to control the how and when, it can actually come to you faster. Remember, research is increasingly showing us that things don't really have definitive properties until they are observed, and even that the universe is not locally real. So if you need more evidence to support your beliefs and your ability to revise, go look at the evidence. What you need to understand is that the most important thing is not being able to change the past. You're doing this because you want to identify as a different version of yourself. The past will change accordingly. The future, everything will ripple fractally to confirm this new identity that you have assumed. But seeing it from this perspective really allows you to grasp it more fully. You can really use this in your favor and amplify your revising abilities if you truly understand it. This means that, let's say you have a bad day where you were not in the state that you wish you had been, that you would have wanted to be in for the manifestations that you were aligning yourself with. You had all old thought patterns, you had fears, you spiraled, and you think that now you've ruined it. You haven't. You can revise the whole day and go to bed identifying as the version of yourself who stayed in the state all day. You can really use this in your favor when you realize that you are free to do anything you want with your consciousness, with your perception. You can get a very meta perspective on it and advance very quickly. A lot of you have asked for examples of things that I have revised, and I struggled to remember some of them because when you successfully revise, you let that old story go, you no longer identify with it, and it really fades into the background. Neville Goddard says, "Do not waste one moment in regret, for to think feelingly of the mistakes of the past is to reinfect yourself. Let the dead bury the dead. Turn from appearances and assume the feeling that would be yours were you already the one you wish to be." The most predominant way that I revise today is I do a short meditation when I get into bed. I recall my day, and I find at least one thing that I did really well, that I'm proud of, that is most aligned with the highest version of myself that I'm becoming. Even if it was something very short, like I meditated for 5 minutes, even if that was the only good thing that I did that day, I focus on that and I really grow the feeling of success and accomplishment and pride for myself from that one thing, as if my whole day was successful. And then I quickly locate in my memory the things I did which I wish I would have done better, and instead of dwelling on them, I imagine myself doing them better. Now this is actually what a lot of athletes attribute their success to, is that mental repetition of them performing the way they would like to perform. When I revise, I've gotten to the point where I can mostly just deny something and never think of it again because I've practiced. You might find it hard in the beginning, but continue to practice. How you do this will depend on what feels best for you, whether it's scripting, affirming, visualizing. When there's something really specific that I want to revise, I will either, and you can do this written or visualized, I will either recall it the way that it currently happened, or I'll skip straight to the new version that I want. But if I recall it the way that it currently happened, I can employ some cognitive behavioral based techniques or some neuro-linguistic programming techniques. For example, I can freeze the scene. I can make it black and white. I can zoom out and make it tiny. I can erase it with a whiteboard eraser. I can cross it out with a pen. I can light it on fire with a lighter, not literally, and see the ashes go to dust. I can swipe it away. I can crunch it up and throw it away. These things are really great suggestions to your subconscious mind, and they can really help you go that extra layer deep if you need that signaling to make this revision more believable to your subconscious. And then lay it out as you would have wanted it to go, and understand that this is now your new reality. This really did happen somewhere out there, and now it's happening to you right here. Get into that scene, saturate yourself, involve more than one of your 5 senses if you can, and enjoy it. And just decide that that's how it was. And if you can't just decide, then keep repeating the scene or keep repeating the scripting until eventually it begins to take on the tones of reality. It begins to feel more and more familiar. Okay guys, that's it from me for this video. There were a lot of questions and comments that I was not able to get to, so if you want me to make a part 3 and answer more questions, let me know down below. If you want to talk with me privately and get some advice for your particular situation, I am available for one-on-one coaching. You can find an option that suits you in the link down below, and I would really appreciate if you like, comment, subscribe, and turn the bell button on so you don't miss when I post again. Thank you!